to technically episode 11 of the Cayeluhb podcast, but this is different. The question format was getting a little old, a little boring, and honestly just very hard to keep up with. So I have decided to shift to a new paradigm for the podcast that I think is going to be really, really interesting, and it's basically centered around this idea that every single person on this earth, there are 8 billion people on this earth, and every single one of them is living as vivid and as complex of a life as you are. And every single person has their own stories, and you will never know everything that a person has been through because every person has been through as much as you. That's basically the idea that I'm trying to encapsulate. So we're back. If you want more of my content, my channel's up. My Lo-Fi Instrumentals EP is releasing extremely soon because I actually just finished up everything on that. I'm super hyped to have that out. So yeah, that's all on my YouTube channel here at DVD Cayeluhb. And then if you want to catch me on Twitch, I'm streaming Mondays, Tuesdays, Thursdays, and Fridays from 9 to 11 p.m. So for today's episode, I'm joined by my friend Juan. What's up, Juan? How you doing?
What's up? I'm good to be here.
Yeah, so Juan, you want to tell the audience a little bit about yourself?
Yeah, sure. So obviously my name's Juan. I go to the same high school as Cayeluhb. I play a lot of soccer, basically all the time. I'm outside doing a sport. Most of the time it's soccer, sometimes basketball, and that's really just like my favorite thing to do.
Nice. All right, so let's get into it. And I do want you guys to know, I said this really quick in the update video, but some of you guys might have missed it. Wednesday episodes, solo episodes, are no longer going to be a thing. I really wanted to focus on guest episodes on Fridays, and they're probably going to be a bit longer, so we might look at 45 minutes to an hour. So, Juan, first thing that comes to your mind, you can go as deep into it or as shallow into it, whatever you're comfortable with. What is your story?
Ooh, good question. All right, so my story. Well, see, let's start school-wise. Basically, I did not go to the same public school system as Cayeluhb has. I'm pretty sure you've been in the same public school system your whole life, right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I was born here.
Yeah. So I went to a private school in the town right next to us, and I spent 10 years there. It was a Catholic school. And that really helped shape what I think of as like my morals and like my main personality. Because like the biggest shift for me, like the craziest thing to deal with, wasn't necessarily like the change from the private school system to the public school or Catholic to like not exactly religious system. It's basically just the difference in the way that people are, especially to each other, like. Mm-hmm. In this private school, it's like you have 100 people total in the entire school. You have 8 people per grade, and those are your friends. Like, you can do nothing about that. Those are your friends, and you have to deal with it. Like, if you don't like those people, you're screwed. But basically, you gotta stick to them. And I think it actually benefited me. I think that was the best part about it, because it helped me be able to like understand people and not just be like seeing people's flaws and being like immediately like, okay, I don't want to associate with that person, or I don't want to interact with that person, because I feel like in the public school system that happens a lot. Like, you get a first impression of someone and that's it, and you don't necessarily want to talk to them. Like you hear that from your friends or something like that. So basically, I, especially like right when I got here, I didn't have that feeling. Like, I know that a lot of my friends are telling me like, oh, this person maybe you don't want to hang out with, but I always have the ideology that I always give everybody a chance, and I'm going to be the one to judge somebody for who they are, and not other people.
8 people to a grade, that's crazy to me. That so like you guys basically went to all your classes together?
Yeah.
Wow, that is, I mean, like, so you went from a school with 100 people total in it to a school where, I don't know about your class size, but our class size as seniors, we have almost 400 seniors.
Yeah.
That is ridiculous.
Yeah. I mean, it was bizarre. Like, especially the first few weeks, getting there and you're just like, oh my god, this is like they're like, holy shit, like this school is huge. This school is like, there's so many people, and like the passing time between periods, you see everybody, and you're just like on the stairways, and you're like, yo, this one stairway has more people in it than my entire school did before. So I'm just like, that blew me away. It was like, especially as like a tiny little freshman, I'm just like, yo, what's going on?
Wow. That must be such an insane transition.
Yeah. It really
Oh
was.
my gosh.
Yeah. No, honestly, but I love it though. Like, I know a lot of people don't necessarily like the public school systems, but to me, I just think that I like it a lot. I like having so many people and having like so many different, as you like to do with your podcast now, so many different stories. And because before there was really only, as I said, 8 stories really to a grade. Now there's 300, 400 people,
Right.
all from different backgrounds, but we share the same like town. So it's just, I thought that was so cool.
That's fascinating. That see, like this is really like, I mean, we've just started, and this is really what I wanted to get at in this podcast is coming at something that I've known my whole life from a completely different perspective. Like this is so interesting to me because I was just thinking about the other day how there are people who are in my grade that sometimes I just forget exist.
Yeah.
Like I just totally like I see them one day in the hall and I'm like, oh, like I forgot that person was here. And to think that, like, I don't want to say the luxury of being able to do that, but being able to, like, it's not a luxury, but just having that as an option versus like if you were like, I'm just trying to imagine me and 7 other kids for, you were there 8 years of schooling?
10.
Wow, 10 years of
Yeah.
schooling with just 7 other people.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I imagine I'd probably, like, you can't really hate anyone. Like, you can't really not be friends with someone, right? Because then you're just kind of like, wow.
Yeah.
This is just...
Yeah, I mean, like, I know everybody has at least like one person that they don't necessarily get along with. That's like impossible to do with 8 people. Like, you gotta suck it up and you gotta like make amends, because I mean they're the only ones that you can talk to. Like, oh my god.
Wow.
I had this friend, my best friend for 10 years. His name was Nate. Oh my god, like we shared everything with each other, like, and we had arguments all the time, of course, like as normally friends do, but like we just like, it was literally like maybe like 30 minutes and we'd be like, yo, you want to play some, I don't know, Rocket League, and then it's over. And that's it.
Yeah, wow. That is just insane for me to think about. Like, I can't even comprehend what that must have been like.
Yeah. I mean, it was definitely like an experience that at the time I definitely wasn't a fan of, but I'm glad that it happened, because it gives me a different perspective to most of the kids in our school.
Right.
People, basically. I really appreciate that.
So, how overwhelming was it to go from having 7 people that you knew pretty much in and out to then go to like 300 other kids who maybe you don't know as well? What was that transition like?
So honestly, I think I got pretty lucky with it, because while it was overwhelming, I didn't necessarily feel like excluded. Because for one, I think that the majority of the people in our school are pretty good people, and I think that most of them were very accepting. But also I had the background of soccer, which I loved. Like, I'm so like lucky to have that, because I joined in 7th grade. So I knew a bunch of people already from soccer, and they basically helped me like transition into it. and those guys were basically like the people who like would introduce me to more people, and from there I'd grow out, and then I started meeting my own people, and that was like, it was really like, it was I was really fortunate to have that.
Wow, that's yeah. I think that having something like that to start off, and because a team is really like a family.
Mm-hmm.
Like there's no way around that, and that kind of having like 8 people on in your class kind of reminds me of like this team mindset.
Yeah.
Because as a cross country team, you only have 7 guys that are varsity. Sometimes you'll run 10 guys in a race. So like those are
Your brothers,
guys, and I guess that's what's up.
Your brothers.
Yeah, exactly. Like that's the best comparison I have for like my understandings to what your schooling was like. Like that's the best I can do, and just to think of that, like I'm picturing going through class every day with those guys, and I can just picture myself liking them less and less like every hour.
Yeah, honestly, like, yeah, I totally get that, because obviously, like, you don't want to be stuck with like the same 7 people. Like right now, like honestly, like I couldn't be stuck now like with the same 7 people every single day. I just like, that would feel weird to me now, because this is my 3rd year now in the public school system, and I am around 300 people in my grade alone every day, especially like pre-COVID times. So like, yeah, I totally understand that. And what's unfortunate though is that like, actually, like, you see, like, it is true that would probably happen if we all had the public school mindset, because like I've grown away from probably all of them now. I only really talk to maybe like 1 or 2, and that's on rare occasion. And most of them I haven't like really talked to like since then, which is unfortunate. But I mean, it's just how time went on, and can't really do much about that now.
That's that sort of concept that you were bringing, like that idea of you're so close with someone, and then like 6 months or a year later, like you're just like, oh, like I should shoot them a text, ask them how they're doing. And it's like it can, that's just weird to me, how it can be someone who you're like spending every day with, and who you're pretty much talking about everything with, and then like half a year later, they're an afterthought. And I feel like that just really speaks to how quickly life can change.
Mm-hmm.
And that's something I've been thinking about a lot going into graduation, is who am I going to stay in touch with? Who of these people that I pass in the hallways is this going to be the last time in my life that I see this person? And something like that is like, even if it's someone I don't know, it's like, I shared this high school with you, and I don't know who you are, I don't know your story, and I'm never going to meet you again, I'm never going to see you again, I'm never going to know who you are. Like that is so, there's something very profound about that to me, and it's, I don't know, I can't really put it into words, but it's very hard to grasp, I think, in the moment.
Yeah, no, I definitely agree. Like, especially like, I know I'm only a junior, but I definitely think about that as well. Like, who am I going to be talking to after this high school experience is over? And I think that transitioning like that from 8th grade to 9th grade into like completely different school system with completely new people, actually like kind of like prepared me in a way for college, because it helped me to like know like the feeling and like what's going to happen when I go to a college, because maybe if I'm lucky, I'm gonna know like 1 or 2 people who are gonna go to the same college as I am in the same year in the same grade as me, but the other 300 might be the last time I ever see them, I ever communicate with them, I ever talk with them. It's just insane.
It's a weird feeling, isn't it?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
no.
even then, like I was talking to one of my friends who we had like an acquaintance who went to the same school. Like both of them went to the same college, and he said that like they were friends and they talked for like the first semester or so, and then like they just didn't talk at all because they had found like other groups and other friends. And I like that's the other thing, is how are these friend groups going to change and evolve after graduation, looking into further life? Who will like like when I look back on 10 years on my high school buddies, who am I gonna think of? It's weird. I don't know.
Yeah, no. I mean, and that's why I have the mentality right now, especially where like if somebody asks me to like do something, like even if I don't really feel like doing it, dude, I just want to. I want to because these are the experiences that are going to shape the rest of my life and the ones that I'm going to look back on and remember with a smile on my face. And whether that be going at night to a lake and just having a blast, just like swimming at night, or that be going to like, I don't know, like a party or something like that. It's just any experience. I just want to be able to have that and look back on it and be like, wow, these were good times. These were good people. And I don't know, maybe I should get back in touch with them.
Yeah, and I think coming out of COVID for our generation really adds to that fire because we just got, cheated out of basically a year and possibly like 2 or 3 months of those memories that we should have had. And so we want to make them even more, which is why I think that this summer is going to be ridiculous. Like this summer is going to be insane.
Oh, yeah. I have big plans. I have big plans for this summer.
When everyone gets vaccinated, things are gonna be crazy. I think people are really gonna stop taking life for granted.
People are gonna go insane this summer. I expect some Channel 8 news on some mental shit that people are gonna be doing. And, good for them. I want to do the same, dude. If it means getting on Channel 8 news, fuck it, let's do it. Yeah, I want to have a blast. I want to have good memories, and that's my main priority, especially after like such a tough year with a bunch of tough classes. I need that, and I think we all do.
Sure. Yeah. That's. Well, okay. Going back to the original question, this idea of what is your story? Is there like anything else that you would say added to that story? And again, like anything you're comfortable with. I obviously don't want to push on anything that might be uncomfortable. And actually, this is a good time because I didn't do it in the beginning, but I do want to put a disclaimer like I've been doing in all the previous episodes. I'm not a licensed professional. I'm not here to give advice. This isn't a column. I'm literally just a kid having a conversation with a friend, talking about their life experiences, sharing them with you to hopefully get you more wisdom, get you a little more acclimated to the world. This is not supposed to be or meant to be, taken super seriously. This is just meant to be, maybe background noise, and hopefully you learn something about how other people, live and how other people experience life. Yeah, no, that's actually one of the main reasons I love listening to your podcast and why I wanted to be on it, because I especially like literally today during my workout, I was listening to the one you did with Justin. I'm really good friends with Justin, so just hearing what he had to say with you was a lot of fun, especially the section about girls, about the section about how to know if a girl likes you. Oh my gosh, that was so funny to me, because excellent. I remember episode, by the way, if you haven't listened.
Yeah, please give it a watch. Episode 7, I'm pretty sure it is.
Yeah, it was 7.
Yeah, what an episode. Because I just remember having those conversations with Justin about his girlfriend, like about asking her out. He was so scared at the beginning. It was so funny, but he's changed he's changed in the sense that he's a lot more confident now, and I love that. I think that he's done well for himself. But going back to the question, yeah, of course, like, what's my story? I'm a very proud Hispanic. Both of my parents are from Venezuela, which is a country in South America, up north next to Colombia. for those of you who don't know. But yeah, no, like honestly, like who the hell knows what fucking Venezuela is? Like, dude, dude, you think Hispanic? Just think of like, I don't know, Mexico. What is that? What most people are gonna say?
Probably. Like, definitely South America. Well, most people will probably go to Mexico, but
Yeah.
I think of, for me, the way it works in my brain is I think of South America, and then I think Brazil, because Brazil is big and it's in South America. That's my thinking, but that's not right, because you're not Hispanic. If you're from Brazil, you're Brazilian.
Exactly. Yeah, you're Latino, basically.
Right.
Is the other way to say it. But yeah, it is really funny though. And like I'll always get like the stereotypical things like, oh, so you're Mexican, right? And I'm like,
Aww.
no, but it's like, it's just, it's whatever at this point. But basically, I love just like sharing about my culture and sharing stuff about the country, because I will always ask my parents like stuff about their childhood there, because obviously I didn't get to experience that. Because Venezuela actually, like 20 years ago, went under like a whole like transition phase with a new government, and it was really bad. I don't want to get into like a bunch of detail, but it was just really bad, so they had to leave. And now we're here. But I'll always carry with me like the traditional things, the traditional food. So good, by the way. But yeah, when I talk about my story, I definitely talk about my Venezuelan heritage and how I'm really proud about it.
So, did your parents immigrated before you were born?
Yeah. So I actually they immigrated because they both went to university in Boston, BU and BC respectively. So they knew a little bit about the country, and then when my aunt actually moved to Miami, they went with them, and that's where I was born.
Oh.
Yeah. So I am a official Florida man. So yeah, I love that, but yeah, and then we moved here, like 2 years later, and we've been here ever since.
So, how would you say that having that culture in your past and having that be a major part of who you are, how would you say that's influenced you as a person, like you at like in social events, like you at school? What's like, so here's a question I'll start with. What are the main differences between like your family dynamic and your dynamic with your friends? That's something I'm curious about.
Yeah, so Venezuelan and most of like South American culture is ridiculously different to American culture. Just like literally, so many differences. One, they literally like in Venezuela, if you don't know how to dance, you're an outcast.
Wow.
Yeah, like you need to know how to dance, and that's definitely one thing that is like I always need to know, and it's like you always need to know if you're Hispanic, and you just need to. And one of the main differences I think is just like the way that like social events just like happen, because in South America, in Venezuela specifically, that I know of, you need to like plan things ahead of time. Like if something's gonna happen, you need to know like a month in advance, because if not, like your aunt's gonna plan like a dinner on the same day, and then you're not gonna be able to go. But here it's like, especially I've had to deal with this a lot recently, but like to go play like sports, like they just decide on the day, like yo, let's just go play. And like, yeah, I'm down, but my mom, my mom's a different story.
I share that, not to probably the extreme that is in the Venezuelan culture, but I definitely share that. Like my friends will be like on the day of like, hey, do you want to like go grab food? And my parents have gotten better about it over the years, but like if I asked them that like 2 or 3 years ago, there would be like a question barrage, and by the time you're done answering all the questions, you don't even want to go anymore.
Yeah, no, honestly, same. It's like, and they always like speculate the worst. It's like, oh, you're definitely gonna go out and do heroin with your friends at 3 p.m. All right.
So here's something else that it just like popped into my mind a while ago because you were talking about like when you were talking about the geography of Venezuela, and you were talking about like, oh, like you always get asked that. How often do people like try to classify your race, and does that offend you? Because to my understanding, and please tell me if I'm wrong, because from what I've read, to some people that would be considered a microaggression. Is that right?
Yeah, no, definitely. For some people, you can definitely see that as offensive. Like,
Okay.
I won't get offended necessarily, if they're like, oh, like, are you Mexican? Because while that is really like stereotypical, it's really just something that I've been used to, and it's just a small thing because it's like we aren't educated enough in
Right.
America about South America and about other places in the world. So it's easy for us to assume things about other cultures and not even realize that it could be seen as offensive.
Mm-hmm.
So me personally, I won't get mad if somebody calls me Mexican, but I will throat punch you if you say something about building a wall to me. Um,
Oh.
yeah,
Oh.
that's
People
happened.
say stuff like that?
Oh yeah, no, and even in my private school, they said that to me one
Oh,
time. One time,
man.
probably the worst that it's been was actually in that private school. At lunch, they actually started chanting, "Build the wall,"
Wow.
and that was like messed up.
Wow.
That pissed me off.
And that's the same 7 people that you then have to spend the whole day with.
Yeah, no, but the
Wow.
it was yeah. I got mad about that, and I let them know that it was like you can't say that, and they did get better about it. But definitely, especially to the people who are listening, just like no, like this goes for anybody, especially Asians and Latin American people. We are basically like ingrained into American culture to be stereotypically racist too, basically.
Mm.
Like you think about obviously uh African Americans obviously have to deal with this every day as well. But it's just become such like an okay part of American society to just be like racist to Asians and be racist to Hispanic people
Mm-hmm.
that it's like it's honestly not okay. And that has to change.
So the first thing I thought of when you said that was The Simpsons. And
Hmm.
then after The Simpsons, I thought of South Park. Then after
Yeah.
South Park, I thought of Family Guy. And it just kept going, and I just kept thinking of there is so much pop culture stuff that has become so normalized and so ingrained in our society that we don't really take a step back and think like this is affecting people. And that's something that I've been thinking about a lot recently as well, is this idea that if you're like a kid, you are very easily influenced by things. Even we are still easily influenced by things, right? Where your brain
Yeah.
isn't fully formed until you're like 23 or something. And even though I think that might be a myth or whatever, you can still easily take a person, and people can be manipulated by other people. We're not a perfect species because we don't rely just on instincts. We rely on other things to keep us alive. Um, and as a kid, if you are like, if your dad or your mom has Family Guy on the television, and you see their portrayal of, like Asian women not being able to drive, or you see their portrayal of a Hispanic, or you're watching South Park and you see South Park's portrayal of Chef as, a fat black guy who sings R&B and is nothing but horny. Like that can affect you from a really young age and really like deeply ingrain racism in you to the point where you don't notice.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and it's not only like it's not only for like white Americans, but also for like the races that are being targeted there, because like we also get to like see it as normal. Like I've said, like I've basically found it like normal now to be called
Mm-hmm.
Mexican and to like have these jokes being told to me because it's just like everybody does it. Like whether it be super subtle or whether it be like full out racism, most people, not everybody, sorry, most people have done that to either, whether it be a friend or to like somebody that they know. Just like say something small, like I don't know, like either like make like a Mexican accent or like talk about Trump or talk about burritos, tacos, stuff like that. Just like stereotypical things that like it's just they're used to it and they think that it's okay to do that.
And I think in the moment a lot of people don't even realize they're doing it. And I think that something really important in order for like self-betterment, like this is this is probably not the best example, but when I play Rocket League with my friends, I tend to get very into the game, and when they make a mistake, I tend to get very blamey and very passionate about the game, and I ask them to, when I start doing that, call me out on it and tell me I'm doing it and tell me to stop, so I know and I can better myself, because end of the day it's a game. Yeah, I want to be good at it, but I don't really, it's not worth a screaming match with a friend over, and that's something that like self-betterment and calling people out. And I think that's something that, not calling people out like, like, oh you're so racist, and being like, you're racist, I got you, I just exposed you as racist, I'm canceling you right now, but instead like hey, when you said that really hurt, it's a harmful stereotype, I would appreciate it if you were just more mindful of stuff like that, because that really does have an impact on people.
Yeah, definitely. And also like that happens a lot as well when I'm playing video games, and I think it is important for us to realize that like people are not doing this purposefully. People are not trying to target like the minorities most of the time, and they're just like doing it out of just habit and out of just like the acceptance of society for it. So it is important, especially if you want them to learn. Don't just start yelling at them. Don't start getting pissed at them, like saying like, "Hey, right, fuck you! Don't be fucking racist." Just calmly talk it out. That's the best way to get your point across.
I think because more people need to do that. Calmly talk it out.
For everything.
Absolutely.
For everything. And especially like, I hate cancel culture. I think that it's really destructive to somebody who may or may not deserve it. Of course, there are cases where they do deserve it, but sometimes it's just ignorance of a person and not necessarily the intent for harm, and they just need to be educated instead of immediately rejected by society. Because if you cancel somebody for something that they didn't necessarily mean to be like offensive about, then they're just going to continue doing it in secret. But if you educate them, they're going to be more mindful about it, and they're going to try to see self-improvement in themselves.
Yeah, that reminds me of there is a major I want to say like it's national, but it's been a long time coming, and I've noticed it very potently in our community, a feminist movement which has always been a thing but has really been gaining ground and gaining traction in the last 3 or 4 months, which I think is great. There's one certain page that I'm thinking of. There's an Instagram page that does a fantastic job with education, and they have plenty of statistics, and there's plenty of very just informative stuff. They do a lot of polls of people in the community, and I think that's especially meaningful, as a man in our community, to see that 97% of women have at some point felt unfairly harassed or pressured by a man in our community, by someone that I probably have walked by in the halls at some point, is just like, it's heartbreaking, but at the same time, it's not as heartbreaking as it should be because I expect it. And that's really, really sad.
Yeah, I also saw that 97% statistic, and it made me angry. It made me not like just so furious at how this has been allowed to happen and normalized, because it's so unfair on women, especially, as well as men when it happens to them, that they are just bombarded by these like people who just see them as like this figure of like sex, when it's totally not okay. And you have to be able to respect people no matter what. You need respect is so important for everybody, because without respect there's no trust, there is no progress, there is nothing but just hatred and negativity.
Absolutely. And I feel like on every post that I see, there's always someone in the comments who's either saying something that is trying to be edgy, and I feel like that goes right back to the idea of educating someone, right? Because I see two types of comments. I see people that are trying to make, the funny joke they see on TikTok where they just, are a dick and it's whatever. And then I see people that are seriously misogynistic and seriously hate women. Like there was one comment that was like an entire paragraph about how the 19th Amendment was the worst thing to happen to the country, and I was just like, holy crap, dude. Go outside, dude. Touch grass.
Yeah, honestly, dude, like, if you're unable to respect 50% of our world, then who the fuck are you? You're not a man. You're a pussy. You're if you are so fragile with your masculinity to accept that there is a problem, and that the only way to fix a problem that is caused by men is through men talking about it, then you aren't a man. Then you're just you're part of the problem, is what I'm trying to say.
Absolutely part of the problem.
Definitely. If you are unable to even just as simply as post on your Instagram, just on your Instagram story, just a small snippet about the problem, then you are the toxic masculinity that they're talking about.
So I find it interesting that you brought up Instagram stories, because I have been reflecting on Instagram stories as well, and I think I don't know. I saw there was a TikTok that a girl in our school shared, that I found very funny, but it was like this is how you look putting up videos of hate crimes being committed on your Instagram story, and there's like a clip of someone like pretending to commit a hate crime, and then like 2 seconds later it's them posing for a selfie, and then there's another clip of them pretending to commit a hate crime, and then there's another picture of them posing for a selfie. And I thought that was I have very conflicting opinions on that, because on one hand I think that that's absolutely valid, in that a lot of people are just seeing something, not taking the time to read it and understand it, and they're sharing it for the public image, and they're making A, the problem worse, and B, they're making themselves look bad. They're making it very clear to us that you don't think this problem is as important. You are valuing this problem to the same place that you put up a picture of yourself that you don't think was good enough to put in a post, but you're going to put it on your story. So that on one hand, but on the other hand, for some people that's the best they can do in sharing activism, and people have the right to put up what they want on their Instagram. So that was my conflict, my inner conflict, my man versus self, on that. So I want to know what your opinion on that is.
Yeah, sure. So I 100% agree that if all that you're gonna do is just reshare something and not do anything about it, then it's not helping at all. That doesn't do anything. You can't just be like, especially like just going back to like the whole like George Floyd thing that happened. You can't just like post that black screen and that's
Blackout
all you're gonna
Tuesday.
do. If yeah, like while I did participate in it and I do see the point in it, you have to do more. Not and I know maybe you can't donate, maybe you can't provide like money for it, but just like if you see it happening,
Right.
stop it. Just stop it from happening. Because I know that if I see, let's say, a friend doing something, whether it be doing something that it's like racist or something that I know that they shouldn't do, I'm going to tell them. I'm going to tell them off about it. I'm going to tell them, yo, you can't be doing that. You can't be saying that. Be mindful of what you're doing because you know that it could hurt someone. So basically, just to sum it all up, posting on your story is good if you are taking the time to reading it and taking the time to act on it.
So when you were talking about the George Floyd case with Blackout Tuesday, I actually just did it myself. What I'm about to say, I saw a lot of posts talking about how the case is being taken to trial. It was taken to trial this past week. It was taken in front of court, and it was being referenced to over and over and over again as the George Floyd case on social media. And I saw one very poignant post that said, "Stop calling this the George Floyd case. George Floyd is not on trial. Derek Chauvin is on trial. Derek Chauvin murdered George Floyd. This is not a George Floyd trial. This is a Derek Chauvin trial." So even just in that, it shows, to me, I was like, oh my God. Like, we are refusing to victimize this man despite this terrible, terrible thing that he's done. We are refusing to put him on trial, and we are instead of focusing on the fact that this man is a horrible, horrible scum, instead we are focusing on the fact that George Floyd died, instead of focusing on the fact that he was murdered.
Yeah, no, definitely. I'm actually going to start doing that as well. I'm going to start, when referring to it, I am going to start calling it the Derek Chauvin trial, because it is whoever commented that is 100% right. If you only talk about the victim and don't talk about the assailant, the person who did the crime, then you aren't like seeing progress as much as you could be, because that they are the ones that deserve to have their name out there as the guy who killed a black man solely because of their race. You deserve to have your name out there and immortalized as a terrible person.
And I do think it's sad that more people know the name George Floyd than they do Derek Chauvin. And that, I think, is very... I understand it on one hand, but on another hand, I feel like George Floyd and his death has been glorified in a white savior-esque kind of manner. Do you know what I mean when I say white savior? I know some people aren't too familiar with the term.
No, can you
A
elaborate?
white savior is the best example of a white savior are celebrities who go to like an African country that is in poverty and impoverished, and they go there to do a photo op with like little kids, and they talk about how sad their lives are, and then they fly home on their $1 million jet and never do anything about that country again. That's what a white savior is. It's someone who goes there for themselves, for their PR image, and like pretends that they're making a difference, and then never thinks about it again. It's basically treating social justice as a PR stunt. And like the more people I see talking about like, oh, George Floyd is dead, that's so sad, and the more and more white people I see talking about this, that's all I think about is like, you are not using this to hold the man who killed him accountable. You are using this to post rest in peace George Floyd because everyone else is posting rest in peace George Floyd. And that, it is very, very crushing to see that.
Yeah, no, definitely. It has to be, going back to my point where you need to act on it. You can't just follow the crowd and do something because you think it's gonna look good for your image. You have to be able to talk about the problem, and you need to be able to act on the problem, or else you are not helping, and you're just posting a fucking black square. You're like, there's more to it than a black square. The black square is a symbol for a massive, massive problem. And if you don't recognize and actively attempt to help in solving that problem, then to you, it is just a black square.
A lot that we've talked about, from this to the 97% statistic, to something else. Like when you're talking with your friends and they bring up a racial stereotype, this idea of holding people accountable for what they've done. Just in general, I feel like has become very underused, which is very odd to put into words like that. But the more I'm thinking about it, the more I hear about the victims than I do the people that have committed the crime.
Yeah. Yeah. Definitely. It's I think it's very difficult for our society to think of the actual crime just in general, and they rather just want to think about what like could come out of it instead of like what actually happened, because that the whole Derek Chauvin and George Floyd scenario is now like barely even like talked about, like how he stood on his neck for, I think it was 50 minutes. Not 50 minutes.
7 minutes and 43 seconds. Don't quote me on that. But that's right. My recollection, because I remember me and my family went to a rally after, and we like knelt down, because the thing was they had us kneel down for as long as the police officer did, and I just remembered thinking, this is a long time for me to be kneeling down on the ground. How could you do this for 7 minutes and 40 seconds under a struggling man's neck?
Yeah. Like, how fucking sick do you have to be to not realize that is a human? It's just it's so aggravating. And in school, like right now, we're starting to read Just Mercy in my AP Lang class, and it's just once again just filling me with rage about how some people just can't fathom equality among everybody. It's just it gets me. It gets me angry. There are a few things that get me as angry as racism. Just something that I can't handle. I can't handle seeing, because it makes me sick, and it makes me want to, like, it just literally, for no better words, make me just want to just fucking drop kick the person who is doing it, because it's like, we are all the same shit. We are all, what is it, 70% water. We are all 100% cells. We are all from the same place, and we will all return to the same place when we die. And that nothing about ethnicity or race differentiates what's inside of us, what's in our hearts, what's in our minds. It's the only thing that is different is our mentalities and our beliefs that we develop in our own head as we grow.
Now, I know this is something that you're very passionate about because I knew coming in. I didn't know about your heritage, which I do now, which I'm very happy to know about because it's very fascinating to me. But I also knew about your involvement with the group that helps out the ESL children in the greater city area of where we live. So I knew that was going to be something like very potent for you. So I'm glad that we really got to dig into something that was as deep and as really fulfilling as a topic to talk about. So I want to leave off with this, and this is a question for you. For people that, as we've talked about, that maybe have racism ingrained in them, and I think that really, growing up in American culture, is all of us, including me. I'm not a perfect man. I've definitely made a bad joke at some point, and I think everyone has, and I'm not saying come cancel me for it, but what would you say as someone who's experienced microaggressions? Is that, what would you say to people who are maybe struggling with that, who maybe aren't aware that they're doing it, or maybe are self-aware, but the will to be edgy and to be different and to make people laugh is sort of overcoming their common sense? What advice would you give to those people?
The advice I'd give is just like, bro, just talk to your friends and to the people around you that are from those heritages, and ask them how they feel about it. Like, if you're going to make a joke about I don't know, somebody's Muslim heritage, just talk to them and tell them, hey, are you okay with this? And if they say no, don't fucking do it. You already have an answer. You already have an answer from somebody who probably in the past has experienced microaggressions because they are a minority or because they are from a religion that is different to somebody else's. And you have to accept that to them it's not okay, and you can't say it.
I find it really interesting that you brought up people of like an Islam culture and an Islam religion, because in a post 9/11 America, obviously minorities deal with microaggressions every day, and I don't want to sound like I'm proud to be white, but I am very, very grateful that I don't have to deal with that every day, because I don't know if I could. I think that would break me, and I find that inspiring and incredibly powerful that anyone who is a minority can deal with that and continue to live their life and make it through their day. And I think that people of an Islam culture especially, not to say that anyone experiences worse discrimination than anyone else, but in a post 9/11 world where it has been nailed into people's heads that a person in a hijab is a walking suicide vest. Like, that is, I'm just trying to, because under that set of beliefs, it's you wear the hijab, right? That's your religion, that's your duty to your God, And as soon as you do that, it puts a target on your head, which is just terrifying.
Mm-hmm. It's horrifying. It is terrible. It is just, and it's horrible that the small group of people has completely changed the perception of an entire religion. Just on in one day, in a total of, I think it was like 4 hours between the first plane crashing and the last one. It is completely changed and affected so many Islamic people, especially in the United States. And it's just another example of something where we as a country and as a community of people who all have a sensible brain on their heads need to know that, look, they did nothing to deserve this. We can't attack them for it.
I think that's a really just beautiful sentiment, that no matter, to see through what you've been taught and what has been banged into your head for years, especially, we live up north, below the Bible Belt, and I don't mean to stereotype or generalize, but I imagine that certain prejudices where slavery was very ingrained in part of the culture must be extremely difficult to live there as a minority. But we are about at the hour mark, so I want to thank you for such an incredible conversation, for sharing your story. I had a great time talking to you, and if you have any closing remarks, anything that you want to say that is going to stick with our audience, like what is it?
All right. Thank you for having me on. And just a closing remark. Nobody is born racist. You are not born thinking differently about a color of somebody's skin or the religion that somebody has. You are taught that. And since you are taught that by somebody, and you yourself also have the ability to change that, and you have the ability to change how you think about somebody for the better.
Very well said. All right, thank you for listening, guys. Thank you so much to Juan for joining me. This is Cayeluhb wishing you, wherever you are, whatever time it is, a lovely day, afternoon, night. Take care of yourself, sleep enough, hydrate, eat 3 meals.